All right, our next area of focus for general math is solving one-step equations, and then we're going to move on to two-step and multi-step equations. Now, I know that some of you are familiar with this and have experience having done it last year, but some of you are not. So I'm going to back way up, break it down step by step, and make sure that we all know what we're doing. So first thing, what does it mean to actually solve an equation? Well, it means to find the value of that variable that you're looking for. So maybe we're looking for x as a variable, maybe we're looking for y, whatever it is, we are trying to find the value that makes that equation true. How do we do it? Well, we isolate the variable on one side of the equation. Now, what does it mean to isolate? Think about it. Think in real life. If you want to be isolated, what does that mean? Or right now, maybe you're feeling isolated with the coronavirus. Isolated means to be by yourself. That's exactly what we want to do to the variable. We want to get the variable by itself on one side of the equation. How do we do it? Inverse operations, that's how. So inverse operations undo each other. So think about this. What is the inverse, or what undoes addition? Did you say subtraction? Because if you did, you'd be right. What's the inverse of subtraction? Well, we just wrote it right up there. If the inverse of addition is subtraction, the inverse of subtraction is addition. What's the inverse of multiplication? Yep, it's division. And then the inverse of division is multiplication. So we are going to use that information to go ahead and solve some one-step equations. Now, do you probably know how to do some of these in your head? Absolutely, and I am all for that mental math, but I'm going to work on writing out the steps because the equations are going to get more complex, and I just want to make sure that we have the correct way and the correct way of solving before they get a little bit more complicated. So for this first one, x plus 2 equals 8. Yes, you could ask yourself, what plus 2 is 8? Well, it's 6. X must be 6. Yes, you've got it. However, to write it out, this is what we do, to use our inverse operations. What is the inverse of adding 2? Subtracting, right? Because the inverse of adding is subtracting. So we subtract 2 from both sides. Now, why do we do that? Because what is 2 minus 2? 0. Well, we got rid of it then, right? So I just have x on that left side. That's the whole point. We wanted to get x alone, or isolated. So then we have 8 minus 2 on the right side. 8 minus 2 is 6, which is probably what you thought of in your head. But again, this is how we show our work. All right, going across now, we have y plus 7 is 9. So to show my work, even though I know you can do it mentally, the inverse of adding 7 would be to subtract 7. And if we do it to one side, we got to balance that equation. We got to do it to the other. And a positive 7 and a negative 7 are 0, right? So I'm just left with y on that left side. And then 9 minus 7 is 2. Y is 2. Now, let's just double check ourselves, make sure that we know what we're talking about. We can substitute 2 back in. 2 plus 7 equals 9. We know that we did our math correctly. All right, let's take a look at this next one. Now we have b minus 4 equals 9. We want to get b alone, so I'm leaving it b, right? So what's the opposite of subtracting 4? Hopefully you said add 4, because you'd be right. If I have a negative 4 and a positive 4, that's 0, so I got rid of them, which is exactly what I'm going for. 9 plus 4 is 13. And then last one over here, we are adding 6, so the inverse would be to subtract 6 from both sides. Got to keep that equation balanced. So I have n alone. 16 minus 6 is 10. Now, I am okay with leaving your answer as 10 is equal to n. Some teachers might want you to switch that order to n is equal to 10. I'm fine. You've isolated it here. That's good enough for me. You can stop there. But just in the future, if you have a teacher that asks you to switch it around, now you know. I wasn't making that up, okay? All right, how about you pause the video and try these 4 on your own. All right, so that first one, we have to add 11 to both sides. That would be the inverse operation. So we get x is equal to 20. On that second one going across there, I want to get z by itself. So what is the inverse of subtracting 14? Well, adding 14. Got to do it to both sides. So the value of z is 16. Now this next one I actually wanted to walk through because it might be a little confusing. We have 24, and now this time it's written on the left side of the variable, which we haven't seen yet. Okay, how do I get rid of that 24? How do I undo 24? Well, currently, it is a positive 24. So how would I get that to 0? I would have to subtract 24, because then 24 minus 24 is 0. Now, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So again, that was because this 24 was a positive number. We had to subtract 24 to get rid of it or to undo it. And we get W is equal to 48. All right, last one here. Again, the variable is, or the number is on the left side of the variable. So right now, think about it. Is it a positive or a negative 6? Positive, right? There's no negative in front of it. So how do I get rid of a positive 6? By subtracting 6 from both sides. Well, a positive 6 and a negative 6 would be 0, which is exactly what we want to get y by itself. Now be careful here. We have negative 8, and we're subtracting 6 more. So I'm going to sketch a number line. Here's 0. I have negative 8, and now I'm going to subtract 6 more. So I'm going more negative. So now I will be down here at negative 14. So y is equal to negative 14. All right, again, I would like you to try these 3 examples and then check my work and make sure that you're on the right track. Okay, so for that first one, we'd have to subtract 1.6 from both sides, resulting in a negative number. We got to be careful with those positives and those negatives. On the next one, I'd add 11 to both sides. Now, if I'm at negative 5 and I add 11 to that, I'm going to end at positive 6. So here's my number line, 0. I'm going down to negative 5. Then I'm going to add a positive 11. So where am I going to end up at? Up here at positive 6. And then the last one, I add 18 to both sides. That'd be the inverse operation. Negative 2 plus 18 is 16. All right, we are going to pause here after doing addition and subtraction, and then we're going to look at multiplication and division one-step problems in the next video.